So picture this. You spend, I don't know, 6 agonizing months locked in a room,
Right.
just completely isolated. You drain your life savings, you max out all your credit cards, and you sacrifice basically every single weekend.
Yeah, the classic founder grind.
Exactly. Because you are building this magnificent multi-million-dollar suspension bridge. And, the engineering is flawless, the steel is
So
gleaming.
perfect on paper.
Right, it's a masterpiece. And then finally, you cut the ribbon, you step back, and you realize you built this beautiful bridge over a completely dry canyon.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there is no river, there's no traffic, you spent absolutely everything you had, only to realize that nobody actually wants to cross it.
Which is just devastating. But it happens all the time.
All the time. So today we are doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're dissecting what we call the illusion of demand.
Yeah, that's a great term for it.
We're looking at why incredibly capable, smart people build solutions for problems that just don't exist. And, well, more importantly, we're going to figure out how to mathematically prove your idea is a gold mine before you spend a single dime of your own money.
I love this topic. Because that dry canyon scenario, that is the default outcome for the vast majority of new ventures.
Right.
It really is. And to figure out how to avoid it today, we are pulling from this massive strategy repository that was compiled by StartupLanes.
Okay, let's unpack this source material a bit. Who are they?
So StartupLanes, for some context, they operate this global accelerator ecosystem. It spans, I think, 56 cities.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. And they've facilitated over $111 million in venture investments across 136 high-growth startups.
Okay, so this isn't just some guy's blog post.
No, not at all. The documents we are analyzing today, they aren't academic theory. This is the brutal, battle-tested filtering mechanism they use to evaluate early-stage pitches.
Before the big money gets involved.
Exactly. Before institutional money ever touches it,
Yeah.
you have to pass these filters.
So looking through all their internal data, the central theme that jumps out is this psychological trap.
Yeah, the founder's trap.
Right, where you just fall madly in love with your own solution. Like you read through these post-mortems of failed companies in the documents, and the founders are just always obsessed with their code or, their branding, their logo.
Yeah, they spend weeks picking the perfect text colors.
Exactly. They completely insulate themselves from the actual market.
And you know why that happens, right? It's because building feels incredibly productive.
It feels like work.
It does. If you're sitting in a room writing software or designing a pitch deck, you are in complete control of all the variables. It feels really safe.
But it's an illusion.
Total illusion. Because the moment you step outside and expose that half-baked concept to a living, breathing market well, you invite rejection. And the StartupLanes data points out that isolating yourself to build a flawless minimum viable product, or MVP, is actually the leading cause of early-stage bankruptcy.
That is so counterintuitive. The MVP is supposed to be the thing that saves you.
Yeah, but they do it wrong. Founders emerge from their caves 6 months later. They present their absolute masterpiece, and the market responds with absolute apathy. Just crickets.
So we have to fundamentally redefine what the word building actually means on day one.
We really do.
Because, we've all heard of Eric Ries, right? The lean startup, the build, measure, learn loop.
Oh yeah, the Bible of Silicon Valley?
Exactly. But reading this accelerator's analysis, it seems like most founders completely bastardized that concept.
They absolutely do.
They read the word build and they just automatically assume they need to open up a code editor.
Which is the fatal misinterpretation. That's the trap. In those first few weeks, the build phase shouldn't involve a single line of production code.
Wait, really? Nothing at all.
Nothing. You are not building a product to sell. You are building a trap to capture qualitative behavioral data.
Ooh, I like that. A trap for data.
Right. You are engineering a test or a conversation or a psychological friction point.
Yeah.
That is what you are actually building.
Which, connects perfectly to what Mark Andreessen says about product market fit in these sources.
Yeah, his definition is the best one.
He makes this brilliant distinction. He says that a great market literally pulls the product out of the startup.
No doubt, yeah.
It's not a founder just pushing a boulder up a hill through sheer willpower.
Right. Because if the market is genuinely desperate, like if the operational pain is really acute, they will drag the solution out of you.
Even if it's terrible.
Exactly. Even if the user interface looks like it was built in 1995 and the software crashes every hour, the demand precedes the supply.
And on the flip side,
On the flip side, in a terrible market, You can write the most elegant, highly optimized application in the world, and it simply won't matter. Nobody cares.
Yeah. And the sources also bring Naval Ravikant's philosophy into this, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, specifically regarding leverage.
Yeah, leverage. He points out that in the modern digital economy, code and media offer basically infinite leverage.
Because the marginal cost of reproducing them is zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You write a piece of software once or you record a piece of media once, and a billion people can consume it basically for free.
But there is a massive gatekeeper to that infinite leverage.
Right. Human judgment.
Yeah. Human judgment is the ultimate gatekeeper. Because if your fundamental judgment about what the market actually needs is flawed, well, that infinite leverage doesn't save you.
It just makes you fail faster.
Exactly. It amplifies the speed and the scale of your mistake.
Yeah.
Flawed judgment ruins infinite leverage.
That is a great way to put it. And that sets up the guiding maxim from Dr. Shishir Gupta, the CEO of StartupLanes.
Yeah, he's advised thousands of founders at this point.
Thousands. And his rule is absolute. He says, do not build something which nobody wants. Build a solution that addresses an urgent, unserved pain point where customers are eager to pay before the first line of code is ever written.
Before the code is written, that is the bar. Commercial viability above all else.
It's a ruthless standard.
It is, but it makes the illusion of demand impossible. Because if you demand that the market proves its willingness to pay before you build the supply, you completely eliminate the dry canyon.
You know for sure the river is there.
Exactly.
Okay, so the theory is completely sound. But let's translate this to you, the listener, sitting at home with a notebook full of ideas.
Yeah, how do we actually do this?
Right. You know you shouldn't build the bridge yet. You need to measure human behavior for $0, and the immediate instinct for everyone is to just go ask people.
Oh, yeah, the classic survey.
Right. Hey, I have this idea. Would you use it?
Which is literally the fastest way to generate a false positive.
Why is that?
Because if you ask people if your idea is good, social cohesion kicks in. They want to be polite.
They will lie to you.
They will absolutely lie to you.
This is the Rob Fitzpatrick concept from the mom test.
Yes.
People naturally want to preserve the social fabric. They want to be supportive, so they tell polite lies.
Let's actually demonstrate how dangerous this is. Because it's insidious.
Okay, let's do a role play. I'll be the founder with an idea for a new automated inventory software, and you play the potential customer.
Sounds good.
Okay, here's the typical disastrous pitch. Ready?
Ready?
Hey, so I'm building this AI-driven inventory platform that syncs all your warehouses in real time. Would you buy something like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds incredibly useful. We could definitely use an upgrade in the warehouse.
Boom, right there. I just heard absolutely.
You got your validation?
In my head, I did. I am now going to spend the next 8 months of my life and probably $50,000 building this thing purely based on your polite encouragement.
And then what happens? When you finally launch it and you come back and ask for my credit card, I will suddenly have, a dozen excuses.
Oh, it's not in the budget right now.
Yeah, the budget cycle just closed, or we have implementation delays, check back in Q4.
Right.
Polite encouragement is functionally worse than a flat-out rejection.
Because it gives you false confidence.
Yes, it gives you the confidence to walk straight into the MVP death trap.
So the tactical shift here is entirely about vocabulary. You must banish the future tense from your vocabulary.
No more would you, will you, could you.
Never pitch the future solution. You have to interrogate their past actions.
You have to act like a forensic accountant. So let's run that scenario again, but this time, apply the zero-cost validation framework from the sources.
Okay, take 2. Hey, how did you handle your warehouse inventory reconciliation last Friday? Like, exactly how many labor hours did you lose to manual data entry, and what was the financial penalty when the count was wrong?
Well, last Friday was an absolute nightmare. Jim spent 6 hours cross-referencing spreadsheets. We still missed a stock out on our primary SKU, and we had to refund about $4,000 in expedited shipping.
Okay, wow. That is a wildly different data point.
Night and day.
You've anchored the entire conversation in historical reality.
Yes, because if I had instead said to you, oh, inventory is easy, we just eyeball it on a clipboard, it takes 10 minutes and it's fine, well, then the pain isn't real.
Right, there is no business there. I don't care how cool the AI sounds, they don't need it.
Exactly. To systematize this exact interaction, the StartupLanes framework relies on what they call the 3 pillars of truth.
Okay, let's break these down.
These are basically behavioral thresholds. If a prospect crosses these thresholds without ever seeing a product, you have genuine validation.
Pillar number 1 is the time commitment. And the benchmark the documents lay out here is 30 to 45 minutes of undivided attention.
Which is a lot for a professional.
It is. Calendar gravity is a real thing.
Right. Professionals protect their time ruthlessly. But if someone is genuinely bleeding money or wasting agonizing hours on an operational headache, they will want to vent about it.
They need therapy for their workflow.
Exactly. If you can only get a 5-minute rush phone call, or if they just give you generic, one-word answers the problem simply isn't acute enough to build a whole company around.
That makes a lot of sense. So pillar number 2 takes that a step further. This is the reputation risk.
This is a big one.
Yeah. If you are interviewing someone and you just outline the mere concept of your solution, will they introduce you to their boss or a peer based solely on that concept?
Because you have to remember, an introduction is a transaction of social capital.
Right. They are putting their neck out.
Yeah, if I introduce you to my vice president of operations and you end up sounding like a complete amateur who just wastes her time, my internal reputation takes a hit. I look foolish.
So they won't do it lately.
Never. Therefore, if a prospect is willing to risk their own political capital internally, purely because they are desperate for the solution you are describing, you have a massive behavioral green flag.
Okay, I see the logic there. That makes total sense. But I'm looking at pillar 3, the data handover, and honestly, it feels completely disconnected from corporate reality.
Really? Why is that?
Well, the framework states that a prospect must be willing to expose messy, sensitive internal data, like raw Excel sheets or operational logs to you, a founder with absolutely no product so you can, quote-unquote, design a workflow.
Right.
In an era of GDPR, strict NDAs, and enterprise paranoia, no corporate client is just handing a random founder their raw logs.
The legal department would have a total meltdown.
Exactly. It's never going to happen.
You're looking at that friction as a bug in the framework. But Dr. Gupta argues that this friction is precisely the feature.
Wait, how is that a feature?
You are entirely correct that people guard their data fiercely. It is incredibly unlikely they will just share it with a stranger.
Right.
So it acts as an intentional filter for desperation.
Oh. Huh.
It is the ultimate filter. The hesitation to share sensitive data is a massive wall. And the only force strong enough to make a prospect leap over that privacy wall is immense, agonizing operational pain.
So if they do share it,
If their current process is so broken and so costly that they look at you, sigh, and say, look, here is our messy, unredacted spreadsheet. Please just figure out how to fix this. You haven't just found demand.
you found a customer who will probably prepay for your solution right now.
Exactly. The higher the barrier they cross to give you information, the more validated the underlying demand is.
Okay, that reframes it entirely for me. The difficulty of getting the data is the actual proof that the problem is worth solving.
Yes.
So if those 3 pillars represent the psychology of extracting the truth, how do we engineer the real-world scenarios to test them?
This is where it gets really fun.
Because we have to build illusions. The source material dives into some incredible historical examples of the smoke and mirrors philosophy.
Where founders faked complex infrastructure through pure manual labor.
Yeah, the Wizard of Oz strategy.
You project the illusion of massive scale while physically pulling all the levers yourself behind the curtain.
The origin story of Zappos is the perfect illustration of this.
I love this story.
It's amazing. Before Amazon acquired them for over $1 billion, Zappos was just Nick Swinmurn in 1999, who was frustrated that he couldn't find a specific pair of shoes in local stores.
Right, and we really have to remember the dogma of the late 90s e-commerce landscape here.
Oh, yeah. The internet was barely functional.
Dial-up modems. And the absolute consensus among retail experts was that apparel, and specifically footwear, would never, ever work online.
Because you have to try it on.
The logic was that a shoe is a highly tactile purchase. You have to feel the leather, you have to check the arch support, walk around the store.
Right.
Buying shoes sight unseen over a 56K modem was considered a guaranteed failure.
So to prove that dogma wrong the traditional way, Swinmurn would have needed to raise, I don't know, millions in venture capital.
Millions. He'd have to sign a lease on a massive warehouse.
Right. Negotiate wholesale supply chains with Nike and Adidas, build a shipping logistics network.
All to test a hypothesis that every single expert said was doomed from the start.
Which is insane. Instead, he executes this zero-cost paparazzi tactic.
So brilliant.
He literally grabs a digital camera, walks into local independent shoe stores in San Francisco, and just takes photos of the inventory sitting on their physical shelves.
He asks the store owners for permission, obviously.
Yeah.
Hey, can I post these online?
Yeah, he creates this really rudimentary, bare bones HTML website called shoesite.com, and he just uploads the
And
images
this is where the unit economics of his manual labor become really fascinating.
because there's no backend.
Exactly. When a customer actually visited that clunky site and clicked buy, Swinburne didn't have a warehouse fulfill it.
No, he would literally walk back down the street to that local retail store.
Right.
He would take his own personal credit card, buy that exact pair of shoes at full retail markup,
Full markup, yeah.
take them to the post office, and manually pay to ship them to the customer.
So just think about the math of that transaction for a second.
Terrible.
It's mathematically bankrupt.
Yeah.
He is charging the customer the retail price online, but his costs are the retail price at the physical store, plus the shipping materials, plus the postage.
So he is intentionally bleeding money on every single order.
Yes. He designed a business model that is guaranteed to bankrupt him if he scales it.
Which sounds completely insane until you realize what he is actually purchasing.
Right. He isn't trying to build a profitable margin on day one.
He is paying a customer acquisition cost to buy behavioral data.
Precisely. The data he was buying was the definitive answer to one specific question. Will a stranger put their credit card into a website to buy footwear they haven't physically tried on?
And the answer was yes.
Yes, they will. By acting as a highly inefficient manual middleman, he isolated the exact variable he needed to test.
He validated the core behavioral truth without ever signing a warehouse lease or buying a single piece of wholesale inventory.
He built the facade of an e-commerce empire, but the back end was just a guy walking down the street with a shoebox.
That is just incredible. And Andrew Mason did the exact same thing with Groupon, but out of sheer desperation.
Oh yeah, the Groupon pivot is legendary.
Because Mason originally had this heavily funded platform called The Point.
Right? It was designed for social activism.
Yeah, getting groups of people to commit to a cause. But the burn rate was destroying them. They were running out of money fast, and the platform was basically a ghost town.
It was way too complex. But amid all that failure, they noticed one anomalous behavior on the platform.
A weird data blip.
Exactly. A small subset of highly active users were utilizing the platform's group action mechanics, but not for activism.
What were they using it for?
To band together and negotiate bulk discounts on consumer goods.
Okay, so they see this, they realize they need to pivot to survive, but they have zero runway left to code a sophisticated, automated daily deal engine.
No time, no money. You need merchant dashboards, secure payment gateways, database architecture. They couldn't build any of it.
So what does Mason do? He spins up a free WordPress blog.
Yep. He calls it Groupon.
And he literally walks downstairs to the pizza shop in the lobby of their Chicago office building and verbally negotiates a 2-for-1 pizza deal.
It's just a handshake deal. But the execution of the actual product delivery is what makes this a masterclass in stripping away database architecture.
Because there was no database.
None.
Mason manually typed out the details of the pizza deal on the blog. When someone wanted it, they didn't get an automated QR code generated by a back-end server.
No, they got Andrew Mason.
Mason was sitting at his computer using a basic script to send raw, unstyled PDF documents that he was typing up in a text editor to an email list.
He violently stripped away everything that makes a software platform function.
And replaced automated logic with his own sweat equity.
Right, because to the consumer receiving the email, it looked like a service. It felt legitimate.
But the entire engine was just Mason manually sending PDFs.
And by doing that, he proved that the consumer hook, the collective buying power, was so lucrative that it didn't matter how primitive the delivery mechanism was.
If the deal was good, people didn't care that it came as an ugly PDF. Now, the manual hustle works brilliantly for e-commerce or local pizza deals. You can physically run to the store, you can type a PDF.
Right, it's very tangible.
But what if you are a solo developer coding a sauce product?
That's trickier.
Because you can't manually be a scheduling algorithm. You can't physically route data packets through the internet.
No, you can't.
So this is where the playbook shifts from physical labor to what the documents call digital smoke tests.
Yes. You're still building the facade, but instead of using your physical labor as the back end, you're using psychological friction to test intent.
Let's look at Joel Gascoigne's launch of Buffer. This perfectly illustrates the digital smoke test.
Buffer's a great example.
He had the concept for a social media tool that would queue up tweets and space them out over the day. Very simple.
And as a developer, his immediate instinct would naturally be to start writing the database architecture.
Start writing code.
But he forced himself to hold off. He built a 2-page website instead.
A completely static landing page.
Yep. Page 1 was just the value proposition. Just 3 bullet points explaining what the tool would hypothetically do, and a large button that said, plans and pricing.
Now, here's the kicker. If you click that button, there was no shopping cart, there was no product. You just hit page 2, which said, hello, you caught us before we're ready. Leave your email and we'll let you know when we launch.
That's it. And he drove traffic to it from his own Twitter account, and people actually started leaving their emails.
Which, proves a certain baseline of interest.
It does. But interest is a notoriously weak signal.
Right, an email is cheap.
An email address given in exchange for a vague promise of a future tool that doesn't prove commercial viability. It doesn't prove they will open their wallets.
And this is where Gascoigne gets incredibly clever.
It's a brilliant tweak.
He looks at the email list and says, sure, they like the idea, but will they actually pay for it? So he injects a layer of friction.
He slides a new page between the pitch and the email capture form.
Exactly. Now, when you click plans and pricing, you aren't taken to the email form right away. You are presented with 3 distinct pricing tiers.
A free tier, a $5 a month tier, and a $20 a month tier.
This changes the entire psychological dynamic of the click.
Radically. Because now if a user mouses over and clicks the $5 a month option, only then do they get the "we're not ready yet, leave your email" message.
The data quality completely transforms.
It's a completely different signal. Capturing an email from someone who just clicked a button that explicitly says 5-month is a definitive behavioral signal.
They have psychologically committed to crossing a payment threshold.
Exactly. Gascoigne used a static HTML page with no back-end logic to prove the unit economics of his unwritten software were actually viable.
He validated the business model with a fake pricing page.
And then Mark Pincus used a variation of this at Zynga.
Oh, the fake button tactic.
Yes, and he used it to save massive amounts of developer hours.
Because Zynga operates in the digital gaming space, right? Like Farmville Mafia Wars.
Right. And the economics of game development are just terrifying.
Because you have to pay 3D artists, network engineers, game designers for months to build a new feature.
And the gaming audience is notoriously fickle. You can spend $1 million on a new game mode, launch it, and the players might just ignore it entirely.
So the capital risk is enormous because user engagement is entirely speculative until the product is actually in their hands.
Exactly. So Pincus implemented the fake button tactic inside their live existing games.
How does that work?
Well, let's say the product team pitches a massive new poker tournament expansion for one of their games.
Okay.
Traditional studios would immediately start coding the multiplayer mechanics. They'd start designing the virtual casino.
Spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. Zynga didn't do that. Zynga just had an artist spend 10 minutes drawing a graphic of a button that said, click here for the new poker tournament.
And they just pushed that single image into the live game interface.
Just the image. It's a dead end. When a player clicks it, they just get a small prompt saying, coming soon, thanks for your interest.
But they are tracking that click.
Meticulously. The telemetry they pull from that dead end dictates their entire engineering pipeline.
So if they inject that button and say 50,000 players aggressively click it within 24 hours.
Then the engineering team has absolute mathematical certainty that the demand exists. The green light is data-driven.
And if the button sits there for a week and nobody clicks it?
They simply delete the image asset.
Wow.
They bypass the entire development cycle for a feature the market just told them they didn't care about.
The cost of avoiding $1 million mistake was literally the hourly rate of one graphic designer drawing a button.
It's ruthless efficiency.
Okay, I want to look at one more digital smoke test because it touches on that friction we discussed earlier regarding data privacy.
AngelList.
Yes, AngelList. Naval Ravikant and Babak Nivi, they wanted to fix early-stage startup fundraising.
Because historically, it was a completely closed ecosystem.
Right. If you didn't have a warm introduction to a venture capitalist through, an elite university or a country club,
You basically couldn't get funded.
so they wanted to build a two-sided digital marketplace to democratize that access, connecting founders directly with angel investors.
But the architecture required for a real marketplace is immense.
Mm-hmm.
You need secure document hosting, complex matching algorithms, user verification, compliance protocols.
So they built none of it.
None of it. They relied on Google Forms and a Gmail inbox.
They just put up a public form and asked founders to submit their highly confidential pitch decks.
Which is wild.
It is wild because, wait, we just established that founders are incredibly paranoid about NDAs and idea theft.
Very paranoid.
How on earth did Naval get these founders to just upload their life's work into a generic web form?
Because the desperation for capital overrides the paranoia of theft.
There's that desperation filter again.
Exactly. Fundraising is such a brutal, agonizing process for an unconnected founder that the slight chance of getting their deck in front of a real investor via Naval's network was worth the perceived risk.
The desperation forced them over the friction point.
Yes. And once the decks were submitted, Naval and Nevi basically acted as a manual matching algorithm.
Doing it all by hand?
Yeah, they would read the deck, write a plain text summary in a standard email, and blindly BCC their personal network of angel investors.
And if an investor replied with interest,
Naval would manually write another email to introduce the two parties.
they facilitated millions of dollars in seed capital through basic email routing.
They proved that the marketplace dynamics functioned organically before writing a single line of code for the actual AngelList platform we know today.
Looking at Buffer, Zynga, and AngelList, it really is like building a movie set on a Hollywood backlot.
That's exactly what it is.
You walk down the street and you see this beautiful, intricate storefront for a bank or a bakery. But if you walk through the front door, there is no building.
It's just wooden scaffolding and sandbags holding up a painted facade.
That's what these founders constructed. They built the facade, the pricing page, the button, the email, promised to make the market believe the structure was real.
And they only invested the heavy capital and labor to build the interior of the building after the customer proved they wanted to move in.
And the consequences of ignoring this, of assuming demand and pouring the concrete for the whole building immediately, are financially lethal.
Lethal.
The StartupLanes dossier includes a very stark, real-world breakdown of premature scaling that almost ended in total collapse. I want to spend some serious time analyzing this.
Oh, the Base One esports case.
Yes, Base One Gaming and Esports Technologies Private Limited.
This is a phenomenal case study because it perfectly illustrates the dangers of the asset-heavy bias, especially in emerging markets.
Let's set the stage. The founders, Waqas Abbas Rahmani and Saif Abbas Rahmani, they had a vision that on paper sounds brilliant.
Oh, it makes perfect sense on paper.
They wanted to democratize professional esports in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India.
Right. And if you look at the macro demographics, India has hundreds of millions of youth who are absolutely obsessed with gaming.
A massive market.
Massive. But these kids are mostly playing in their bedrooms, right, on their phones. And they don't have the institutional infrastructure to get scouted for professional global esports teams.
So the Rahmanis envision what they called a phygital model.
A blend of physical and digital infrastructure.
The digital side was an online tournament ladder to rank players, which is fine, but the physical side is where they walked right into the CapEx trap.
They plan to build a network of high-end, localized physical gaming lounges in these smaller cities to act as scouting hubs.
Let's break down the actual unit economics of building a physical esports lounge, because we aren't talking about throwing some folding chairs in a basement.
Not at all.
To attract players who want to go pro, you have to offer an experience better than what they have at home.
Much better.
So you are signing multi-year commercial real estate leases in these Tier 2 cities. You are purchasing commercial-grade hardware.
And gaming hardware is not cheap.
We're talking about gaming rigs with high-end GPUs that can easily run $2,000 a piece.
Plus specialized high refresh rate monitors, ergonomic setups, gaming chairs.
You have to hire and train local management staff to run the place. And then there's the networking.
The networking is often the silent killer in this business model.
Exactly. To host competitive tournaments without lag, you need dedicated low-latency enterprise fiber routing.
And the documents specifically call out the massive hidden costs of infrastructure realities, like DDoS and protection.
Yes. Explain what that actually looks like to a tournament organizer, because most people don't realize how vicious the esports world actually is.
It is cutthroat. So a distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack, is basically when malicious actors flood your network with garbage traffic to overwhelm your servers and take them offline.
Just crashing your internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in competitive esports, where there are fierce rivalries and sometimes even illicit betting markets involved, players or third parties will actively try to DDoS the host venue to disrupt a match or force a forfeit.
Wow.
Yeah, to defend against that, a localized lounge can't just use a standard consumer internet connection. They have to invest in enterprise-grade network security and hardware firewalls.
Which are astronomically expensive to maintain on a monthly basis.
Yes, huge recurring costs.
So they are taking on this massive, heavy physical and digital infrastructure cost. And they did it based on a fundamental error.
Confusing general passion with a validated business model.
That's the trap.
It is the crux of the failure.
Yeah.
The founders looked at the massive popularity of mobile gaming, kids playing free games like Battlegrounds Mobile India on cheap smartphones in their living rooms. And they assumed that general passion would organically translate into premium physical foot traffic.
They assumed the kid playing on a phone for free would get on a bus, travel across town to a physical lounge, and pay an hourly premium to sit at a PC.
Exactly. But they failed to validate the localized customer lifetime value against their massive customer acquisition and CapEx costs.
Let's do the math on that.
Okay, think about it. If you spend $2,000 building out a single premium PC station, plus the overhead of the lease and the DDoS protection,
Right.
but the discretionary income of a teenager in a Tier 3 Indian city limits them to paying perhaps $2 or $3 an hour for seat time.
Oh, wow. The payback period on that hardware stretches into infinity.
Exactly. The hardware will become obsolete and need replacing before it ever turns a profit.
So the burn rate becomes completely unsustainable.
They were bleeding cash, and the operational execution was grinding to a halt.
They built the multi-million-dollar bridge, and the gamers in these Tier 3 cities simply couldn't afford the toll to cross it.
Which is where Dr. Shishir Gupta and the StartupLanes ecosystem intervened.
Right. How do they save it?
The intervention was entirely focused on restructuring their unit economics and forcing them back to the zero-cost validation principles.
So they just stopped the physical rollout.
Dr. Gupta stopped the physical scaling immediately. You cannot substitute macro-level passion for localized micro-level validation.
But how do you pivot a business that is inherently designed to be physical? Like the whole pitch was physical lounges.
You aggressively kill the asset-heavy bias.
Okay.
Instead of signing a 5-year lease and buying 50 PCs to see if a specific city has an appetite for competitive esports, you run a digital smoke test.
How does that look for esports?
You use existing free community platforms like Discord or local Facebook groups to announce a regional digital-only pop-up tournament.
You set up a simple landing page with a waitlist.
You measure the intent before you build the infrastructure.
Ah, I see.
Exactly. You measure how many players from that specific zip code actually register. You measure if they're willing to pay a microtransaction entry fee for the digital tournament.
Testing the willingness to pay.
Right. And only after you have proven the genuine commercial viability of that specific region do you even consider spending money on physical latency routing and hardware.
Base One Esports essentially built the bridge and waited for the gamers to flow under it. The intervention forced them to survey the river first.
Which saved the company.
It's a brilliant turnaround, but it's a terrifying near miss. It perfectly illustrates why physical assets will drag you underwater if the localized demand isn't there.
Absolutely.
Which brings up another concept Dr. Gupta frequently emphasizes to founders in this network: geographic arbitrage.
Geographic arbitrage is fascinating.
It feels like a shortcut, but based on the Base One story, it clearly has its own traps. Explain what it is first.
So geographic arbitrage is basically the observation that you don't need to invent a novel, unprecedented idea to build a massive company.
You don't have to be Steve Jobs.
Right. You can look at a mature market, the US, Europe, or parts of Southeast Asia, and identify a venture-backed business model that is demonstrably thriving.
The core mechanics of the business are already proven.
Yes. You then take that exact blueprint and apply it to an underserved regional market where the concept just hasn't arrived yet.
But the fatal mistake founders make is assuming that because the code works in San Francisco, it will seamlessly work in Mumbai or Lagos.
They just copy and paste the software.
And that ignores all the localized friction.
Right. Geographic arbitrage provides the solution blueprint, but you still must use zero-cost validation to verify the local problem.
For example?
Well, take a SaaS product that relies heavily on automated credit card billing in the U.S.
Very standard here.
But that might fail spectacularly in a market where consumers predominantly use localized digital wallets or UPI systems.
Or the regulatory environment might completely alter the unit economics.
Exactly. You still have to do the mom test interviews locally. You still have to build the localized smoke tests to ensure the cultural spending habits align with the model you are importing.
The physics of the bridge might be proven somewhere else, but you still have to verify that your local canyon has a river.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Okay, that perfectly sets up the culmination of this deep dive. We've covered the psychology of the MVP trap. We talked about bypassing polite lies, the manual labor of Zappos, the digital facades of Buffer, and the scaling nightmares of Base 1.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Let's synthesize this into the ultimate three-point checklist from the sources. These are the 3 behavioral green flags you must secure before you spend a single dollar on a prototype or a lease.
Point number 1, the urgency check.
Okay, what is that?
You must honestly assess if your proposed solution targets a pain point that causes real, quantifiable financial loss or severe time degradation for the customer.
If the problem is just a mild annoyance,
Then the switching costs of adopting your new product will outweigh their desire to use it. They just won't bother.
point number 2, the behavioral proof.
Yes. When you interrogate their past actions, not their future promises, can you find evidence that they're already exerting manual effort to solve this?
Are they duct taping 3 different software tools together?
Are they spending 6 hours on a Friday manually cross-referencing Excel sheets?
If there are no makeshift workarounds already in place, the pain isn't acute enough.
Exactly. And point number 3, the absolute filter. Commercial viability.
This is the big one.
You need definitive, undeniable market signals that prove a readiness to transact. We are not looking for verbal encouragement.
No polite lies.
Right. We are looking for high-friction commitments. Significant time investments, reputation risk via introductions, handing over sensitive internal data.
Or the ultimate validation, upfront cash deposits or signed letters of intent based solely on a landing page or a pitch.
If you clear those 3 points, you have a mathematically validated business.
But I think we also need to address the emotional fallout when you don't clear them.
Yeah, the rejection.
Say a founder listens to this, spins up a landing page with a pricing tier, runs some Twitter traffic to it, and absolutely nobody clicks the button. It's a complete ghost town.
Which happens.
The natural human reaction is crushing defeat.
We have to completely rewire how we view that outcome. A negative result from a zero-cost smoke test is not a failure.
It's not.
No, it is a massive strategic victory. You just executed a test for perhaps $50 in domain hosting and a few hours of your time, and you conclusively proved the market doesn't want the product.
You found the dry canyon before you bought the steel.
Exactly. You saved yourself $50,000 in development costs and a year of agonizing, isolated labor.
You preserved your capital and your sanity.
And now you are completely free to pivot, adjust the value proposition, and run a brand new test the very next day.
Discovering your idea is flawed for $0 is probably the highest return on investment you can achieve in the early stages of a startup.
It really is.
This entire methodology, the playbook used by these global accelerators, is really about stripping away the ego of building.
And replacing it with the discipline of listening.
You don't need a venture capital seed round to act on this today. You just need the willingness to ask hard questions about past behavior and the creativity to build a facade.
And while our focus today has been entirely on corporate ventures and software startups, the underlying mechanics of validation are universal.
How so?
Well, I want the listener to consider applying this framework outside of business entirely. Think about the massive, capital-intensive decisions we make in our personal lives, or within our internal corporate teams.
Applying a smoke test to your personal life.
Why not?
I mean, I guess I've never thought of it that way.
Think about it. Before you completely overhaul your diet and throw out everything in your pantry, or before you decide to break your lease and move across the country to a new city.
Or before you spend 6 months restructuring your entire department at work.
Right. How could you run a zero-cost validation test on those decisions?
How do you build the landing page for moving to a new city?
You measure real behavior instead of relying on your initial optimism.
Okay, give me an example.
Instead of committing to the move entirely, can you sublet a room in that new city for 2 weeks? And force yourself to do a standard, mundane commute.
Oh, wow. Testing the friction.
Yes. Can you test the reality of the daily friction before you pay the massive swishing cost of relocating your entire life?
Because we constantly build beautiful bridges in our minds regarding our personal choices.
We do. We romanticize the outcome.
Validating those choices by testing our own behavioral reactions to small friction points can save us from years of regret.
Exactly.
That is a phenomenal paradigm shift. Running a smoke test on a massive life choice to protect your own personal capex.
It works for everything.
I'm going to be unpacking that concept for the rest of the week. Well, that brings us to the end of today's analysis. Thank you for diving into the mechanics of the illusion of demand with us.
It was a pleasure.
Keep interrogating past behaviors, keep building those digital facades, and always make sure there is water in the canyon before you start pouring the concrete. We'll see you next time.